The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Alrighty, welcome to another special segment. Why CARICOM? Turks and Caicos Deputy Premier on Regional Unity and Opportunity, Jamal Hartman here. Folks, let's get right into it. As Bermuda continues its national conversation around potentially becoming a full member of CARICOM, we've been using or hearing a wide range of opinions from Bermudians across the island. See, some see opportunity, others have concerns, and many simply want more information before forming a firm opinion. Now, one thing that's important in conversations like these is hearing directly from countries and territories that have already navigated similar discussions themselves. Like Bermuda, the Turks and Caicos Islands are currently an associate member of CARICOM and have been so since 1991. Also, like Bermuda, Turks and Caicos has expressed interest in pursuing full membership as part of the efforts to strengthen regional relationships and cooperation. So today, we're going to be continuing the CARICOM Conversations series brought to you by the Ministry of Home Affairs, and we'll be speaking with the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Honorable Jamal R. Robinson. We'll be discussing why Turks and Caicos is interested in full CARICOM membership, what benefits they believe could come from it, concerns around issues like freedom of movement and economic impact, and why regional collaboration matters in today's global environment. We're going to take a short break, and after this break, we're going to come back and we'll have the Honorable Jamal R. Robinson, the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, joining us for this very special conversation. Stick with us.
Late in life, I met my paternal family, and I remember the shift that it had for me, informing my identity like never before. When you understand where you come from, you move differently, you stand differently, you choose differently.
When we look at Bermuda, there's much more to us. When I look at myself, when I think about myself, I think about my grandfather's heritage as a Caucasian.
If you look at the history of Bermuda, you don't have to go too far to find that there's always been a very strong connection.
If you go to any other island, the dialects may differ, what they call the foods may differ, but the customs are very much the same.
When you look at all the facts, it shows that we are inextricably connected to the Caribbean's economic development, its historical development.
We've brought teachers from the Caribbean, we've brought people in many trades, we've brought chief justices. We've helped to make Bermuda the quality that we enjoy today.
Just the way we look at each other, just the way we are warm with each other in Bermuda, this natural feeling of we belong.
By developing interregional ties and connections, it's like having tools in a toolbox. The more tools you have in your toolbox, the more capable you are of finding solutions to some of the challenging issues that we continue to face.
The story of us.
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 Bermuda's story is a Caribbean story. Remember who you are and who we are. Learn, ask your questions, and participate.
Alrighty, this is a very special segment in the CARICOM Conversations, and we are going to welcome, let's give a warm Bermudian round of applause to the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, the Honorable, yep, I said it right, Jamal R. Robinson. Let's give a warm welcome to him. Greetings, sir. How are you? Oops, we are maybe having an issue, so give us a second. We may be having an issue, so we'll get him back. But if you have any questions or comments for the Honorable Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands, feel free to send any questions through. Let's try to get him in again. So I believe he's back. Let's bring in the Honorable Minister. Sir, can you hear us? I think we're having a bit of challenge. Are you there? Can you hear us?
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, right. Jamal.
Seems like we got a little lag, a little delay. What I'm going to do, just so we can get the quality up, is if you can leave the studio and then come right back in, that should do it. There's a slight delay, so let's get rid of that lag. Just leave the studio and come back in. and we'll continue from
All
there.
right, will do.
All right. So it's technology, folks. It happens. But where do you stand? I'm gonna let's do a poll. Where do you stand currently on the CARICOM? Where do you stand on CARICOM for Bermuda full membership? Where do you stand on full membership? And again, minds can change. Full CARICOM membership for Bermuda. I'm gonna put the poll up. Membership for Bermuda. Are you for, against, or unsure? Where do you stand on full CARICOM membership for Bermuda in this day and time? Where do you stand? You can press 1 for 2 for against, or 3 unsure. You can hit that poll at any point, but we're going to bring the Honorable Minister Jamel R. Robinson, the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos. Let's give him a warm TDH welcome, bring him back. Sir, how are you? Can you hear us?
I can hear you clearly, Jamel. How are you doing this afternoon?
Wonderful, wonderful. There was a bit delay, but first of all, thank you for doing this. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for engaging with this conversation. As I mentioned during my opening, Turks and Caicos has been an associate member of CARICOM for some time. From your experience, what has that relationship made possible? And why is there now a growing conversation around deeper integration or expanded participation within the region for the TCI?
Thanks, Jamel. And essentially, there's several things that the Turks and Caicos would have directly benefited from, particularly in recent years, from our association with CARICOM. The number one being national security support, particularly from our counterparts in the Bahamas in the first instance, as well as Jamaica in the second instance. Essentially, when we were going through our difficulties with violent crime over the last 3 years or so, in the first instance, we were able, through the communications from our premier directly with the just re-elected Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Philip Brave Davis, to secure some 30 plus tactical officers to be able to come and assist us to suppress some of the gang violence and the gun crimes that we were experiencing. We used that opportunity at that time to be able to put in a suite of legislative changes. Unfortunately, during the time after the Bahamian officers would have left, we had another spike. And this time through the lobbying from our Honorable Premier, Honorable Charles Washington Mizik, we were able to get the support from Dr. Andrew Holness, Honorable Dr. Andrew Holness, Prime Minister of Jamaica, where we're actually still utilizing some of that tactical support here in the Turks and Caicos Islands as we speak. Now, I know for a fact that that would not have been readily available if it were not for our CARICOM linkage and our CARICOM partnerships, where the Premier, our leader, was able to call his counterparts from both of those countries to be able to get assistance almost immediately. So they've been a help. They've been a great help from a national security standpoint. Also, of course, why regional integration is important. The thing that's always on our minds more long term is the idea of one day possibly going independent as a country. I'm sure Bermuda has had that discussion over the decades. Turks and Caicos thinks about it, but this full CARICOM membership is one of those steps towards determining as a people whether or not that's the next step we would want to take, because at the end of the day, we're in a global environment where partnership is important. So you might not be outright independent, but you must lean on your regional counterparts to be able to maneuver in this very uncertain world. So those are some of the things that we consider down here in Turks and Caicos in terms of our push and our move to try and get, just like Bermuda, BVI, and possibly the other overseas territories, gaining full membership into CARICOM. I think it's a very, very important thing for us to do at this particular time.
One of the things that supporters often point to when it comes to full CARICOM membership is economic opportunity. Can you speak to what practical economic benefits territories like Bermuda and Turks and Caicos could gain from stronger Caribbean cooperation?
I think one of the economic opportunities was really twofold. One, the ability to access trade. Trade is important for all of us because twofold, and it's a duality. One, in Turks and Caicos, cost of living is significantly high, and it could be the case in Bermuda as well because we import the majority of our imports. So we import the majority of our food, we import majority of labor, we import majority of everything that we need to function as a country, to operate as the economy. However, by improving our membership in CARICOM, we'll be in a position to help those trade missions that we need to go on within the region so we can get better products into our countries at a cheaper rate. Because at the end of the day, if we are in a position where we have to do the importation of so much goods into our countries to be able to live, we're going to need to ensure that we can get that done at the lowest rate. Now, while I know a lot of persons throughout our region enjoys the goods coming from the United States, they are goods that literally come from some of the Caribbean countries, go to the United States, that are repackaged or rebranded and sent back throughout the Caribbean. So we have to ensure that we have the appropriate standards in place so persons can be at ease. But also, you're talking about, in Haiti alone, there's 11 million people. Jamaica has about 3 million. I believe Trinidad has about 1.8, almost 2 million people. Those are customers for countries like Bermuda. Those are customers for countries like Turks and Caicos. So we could not only get better imports, but businesses that want to do exports, that have a product that they want to sell. The Caribbean basin in of itself has millions and millions of customers that have similar backgrounds, similar cultures as ours, and Bermuda and Turks and Caicos. So that's an opportunity there in itself just for the exports, right? And then, as I would have mentioned earlier, access to the labor pool. I'm not sure what the population numbers or the dynamics in terms of the labor pool within Bermuda might be. Within Turks and Caicos, we have a large number of work permit holders to be able to help us run our economy while ensuring that Turks and Caicos Islanders, of course, get the first opportunities of the best opportunities that are available. That's the reality for the type of tourism-centric model that we have for our economy. Having better relationships in place to be able to ensure that our countrymen and women have the first and the best of what's available, but also having access to a talent pool that's expanded beyond ours is something that is a plus. And again, similar backgrounds, similar connections, that allows the integration of those persons into our population for that set period of time to take place very smoothly. So again, those are some of the things that being a part of CARICOM or having more regional integration taking place actually is a positive.
And audience, if you have any questions for the Honorable Jamel Robinson, you can send them through. I know you're rocking with us, but if you have any questions, comments based on what he said so far, please feel free to send them through. I want to go a bit deeper because beyond economics, you spoke about cultural ties. There are historical ties between Caribbean people, and we're discussing regional integration. Small island nations and territories face many of the same pressures. I mean, climate vulnerability with the hurricanes. I know Bermuda has assisted Turks and Caicos as well. Jamaica, different islands when it's come to hurricanes. There's the rising cost of living you mentioned. We have it in Bermuda. The migration, you spoke on that. energy security and global economic uncertainty. How critical is regional collaboration to address these shared challenges effectively, like together?
Jabal is very critical, in all honesty, because in our unique situation, yes, we are British overseas territories, and the United Kingdom has primary responsibility for our foreign affairs, national security. But to be able to also leverage the fact that the Caribbean has tons of independent nations that get to sit at the table, at the United Nations and all of these forums and engage basically the world's superpowers, being a part of such an association and helping to shape the narrative or give input into what, and having an opportunity to sit at the table of a CARICOM to be able to shape the regional agenda. Decisions as an associated member, we aren't able to make. But as a full member, we would have the full length and breadth to participate in all of those decisions. Because again, on all those fronts that you would have mentioned, from security, from climate change, from all of those things, again, we would then have a greater opportunity to influence outcomes, right? Not just rely on our relationship with the United Kingdom alone, which is important to be able to move the needle. And again, we are all small island developing states, which sea rise is something that is a reality. Climate change is a present reality. Disasters and disaster response is our current reality. So whatever mechanisms that's being made available to us to push and pull those levers to get the result and desired outcome for us and for our people, I think it's important for us to take every opportunity that becomes available. And this is one of those opportunities that is being presented or pushed for at this particular time, that all of the overseas territories, or the British overseas territories, should pursue, so we can have greater say locally and internationally about what takes place in our region.
Mhm. I want to go back to the um, similarity that you mentioned. Bermuda is very similar. Turks and Caicos has a lot of work permit holders, as does Bermuda. And Bermuda's in a position where they, would like more workers, like they need more people to fill jobs. And so the interesting topic here, probably one of the most interesting regarding the whole idea of pursuing full membership, has been the free movement. It's a sensitive one, and many aspects of it are misunderstood as it relates to CARICOM integration. Now, Turks and Caicos has made it clear that full free movement is not currently being considered. Can you explain your government's position on that issue and how territories can pursue deeper regional cooperation while still maintaining control over immigration and labor policies?
That's a great question, and this is a very nuanced situation with free movement, and it has several layers. The route we are pursuing for our free movement element of the Treaty of Shagaramas is the Bahamian route, where they have a bespoke protocol which doesn't allow the total free movement of all CARICOM nationals for, I guess, be visa-free movement or for work-related movement, because of the size of their population, which is larger than ours, which theirs is about 300 plus thousand. Ours, Turks and Caicos, being somewhere about 50,000 or so. So we have our challenges. So you have to find that balance of the need for external labor, which the preference would be for persons from within our region because of the similarities in the cultural background, cultural ties, while also having a situation where you ensure that you protect the ability for a Turks and Caicos Islander or a Bermudian, in your instance, to be able to have first preference with the job market internally. Now, when it comes to free movement, generally speaking, for the Turks and Caicos Islands, we have 16 Massachusetts members of CARICOM that has visa-free travel to the Turks and Caicos Islands. So that's very free already, right? And clearly, each designation would be based on security assessments, etc., on our belief about the likelihood that a country or its nationals would leave on voluntary, right? So that's a part of our assessment. So we have a freer movement as it is. So it isn't a case where we are just keeping everybody out who's in CARICOM or everybody has to get a visa. That's not the current reality. It's just a small handful of the CARICOM related nations that has that visa requirement in terms of moving in. And again, it doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to enter the country, or it doesn't mean that they wouldn't be able to work. And as persons might have noted at the 49th heads of Caribbean governments CARICOM meeting that was held in Jamaica, Barbados, Belize, St. Vincent, and I want to say Antigua. I could be wrong on that one. It's either Antigua and St. Lucia. Those 4 countries, they would have started a limited, complete free movement of people and skill force within their 4. So CARICOM as a whole hasn't, at this point, have completely free movement amongst the members of the full membership that have signed on to the treaty as it is, because of course there are the various concerns. But as long as we get to the point where we recognize that, all right, well, for our country's growth, that we need certain skill sets that can be gotten within the region, but also while also building those skill sets that are needed within our country simultaneously, and ensuring that our nationals get an opportunity, first opportunity for those higher paying jobs or those managerial opportunities, then I think there's a balance that all of the CARICOM nations can actually strike in terms of moving forward with the free movement idea and ideal in terms of moving within the countries. But I think ultimately a person would want to be within their own country if the opportunity rests there. Because I'm not going to move to Bermuda if I can do the same thing that I like in Turks and Caicos and make a living for me and my family. And you wouldn't move to Turks and Caicos if the same thing affords you in Bermuda. So I think we're going to get to a point where we can find the right ingredient or the right mix that makes it viable. Because again, we're not just competing regionally, because a lot of our citizens might be looking beyond the region or beyond the Caribbean to go to Europe, go to Africa, go to North and South America to get better opportunities, as is with movement of people generally throughout the course of history. So I think we'll find a way.
Yeah, I want to go back because earlier, one of the challenges in Bermuda and questions that people keep having is, you mentioned national security and how that helped. You mentioned how economically with the food going to the U.S. and then being repackaged and so on. There are people who feel like, well, why do we need full membership to negotiate better security with our regional partners? Why do we need full membership to have security, better regional security with our partners? What do you say to those questions? Because that's what we get a lot in Bermuda.
Well, the reason why I would say full membership to be able to better negotiate those things is because membership has privilege, right? It's harder to want the benefits or the full benefits of an organization without full membership, right? And having the full reciprocal requirements. So while we have been in a position to benefit to an extent thus far, the bilateral agreements, they might not be as readily available, separate and apart from being able to participate within the full regional framework and participate from what is being offered to the region. Perfect examples. Formerly, I was the National Disaster Coordinator for the Turks and Caicos Islands in my previous life as a public servant. And one of the things that we found that as overseas territories, particularly British overseas territories, that in a lot of the disaster assistance that were being offered to CARICOM members, of which Montserrat is a full CARICOM member and was able to participate and is able to participate fully present day, was that certain resources that are being made available from U.S. aid or the Japan aid or any other country's aid programs for disaster management, we were not able to access as associate members because of our links with the UK. So it would always have to be a separate carve out where either we didn't get it at all or we had to lobby the UK to be able to fund us separately to be able to have access to those resources that was being made available for all of the CARICOM full members. So that would have been a part of the SEDEMA, the Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency construct as us being participating states, but not full CARICOM members. So again, with membership comes privilege. So we can do some things, certainly, but having access essentially to the 18 full members to be able to negotiate directly or participate in the regional construct is something that is better done as a full member as opposed to associate member, because again, you aren't gonna necessarily be able to cut deals or have bilateral agreements, and that's not even taken into the context of still being British overseas territories and having to get letters of engagement or letters of consent from the United Kingdom government in the first instance, and having them to vet everything you may or may not be proposing. So it's a neater and cleaner way to move our individual country agendas forward.
As British overseas territories, the decisions still lie with the governor, right? So how do we really take hold of this and lead this from the front if we still don't have the final say?
So what would have happened with the Turks and Caicos as well as Bermuda and BVI and all the others? We would have gotten a letter of intent. Oh, sorry, a letter of entrustment. That's the correct word. A letter of entrustment, which indicated that we were given the green light to pursue full membership within CARICOM, to negotiate a position. And the only thing that is required thereafter would be for the UK to review the negotiated position and sign off on it. So we are, in this instance, leading from the front. So it will be Turks and Caicos Islands, Bermuda, government officials, and our technocrats that are working or that will be working with the CARICOM Secretariat to go through all of the provisions within the treaty to affirm or confirm which ones we agree to, which ones that we may have challenges with, and to lay out what the overall position are and come to an agreement between CARICOM and the overseas territory in the first instance, and then have it reviewed by the UK government through the Secretary of State in that instance, and then all things being considered, then it could be approved and be brought to the heads of government for final approval in CARICOM. So the UK would give its blessing, but at the end of the day, ultimately, as CARICOM is a independent organization themselves, they would have the final say, the final say on how we move forward into full membership. So that's how that process is going or will go.
We've got a question from the audience. Mark Arthur's asking, good afternoon. What profit revenue can be made by being a full member of CARICOM? You there?
Well, what I would say, thanks for the question. What I would say from a profit revenue side of things, right? Right now, CARICOM is working on our regional transport mechanism, right, which will help to reduce the cost of not only people movement within the region, but goods movement within the region. Assuming that that's in place in the next few years or in short order, that alone, being able to get cheaper goods moved from the Eastern Caribbean to the Western and Northern Caribbean and vice versa, allows us to bring down the cost of goods and the cost of doing business in each of our countries right off the bat. Once that's done, you're gonna have more profits that are generated as a consequence of just that one single ability. And of course, trade. If you're full memberships and you have access to all of the markets, the several million people that are available, if you're an entrepreneur within Bermuda, if you're an entrepreneur within Turks and Caicos Islands that has the ability to produce a product and export it very reasonably or cheaply enough that you can turn a profit, a significant profit, and basically you have access to a significant amount of more similarly like persons that are not just Bermudians, that are not just Turks and Caicos Islanders, that may want the type of product that you have available. That's unleashing, an opening of a market that right now may not exist for you in Bermuda, or it may not exist for you as a Turks and Caicos Islander entrepreneur and product producer. So that alone allows you to generate profits from an entrepreneurial standpoint, as well as to have more monies to be able to do for your people from a government standpoint, or cost of doing business standpoint, generally in your country, because of bringing the cost of goods down overall. So I think that that's the way you'll have access to more funding and more revenue from being a full member of CARICOM.
Well stated. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the question from the audience. We got to let you go, but for Bermudians in particular who may still be uncertain or skeptical about deeper CARICOM engagement, what would you encourage them to consider as they follow and weigh this conversation and the things that are being said?
What I would say to them, and thanks for the question, Jamal. What I would say to them is that trust that this is the next step towards nation development. Trust that your government has your best interests at heart and will not broker or negotiate a deal for full membership that will be ultimately detrimental to the Bermudian people or the country as a whole. There is opportunity here where greater partnership, greater collaboration, greater sharing of knowledge into Bermuda, as well as Bermuda being able to lead in other sectors to be at the forefront in the region on other instances. I think fintech is something that Premier Burt is particularly spearheading. So it's a greater opportunity in the present state for regional integration, and not just regional integration, but leveraging all of the persons and all of the people throughout the region to help change the world. So literally, this is the beginning of something that I believe will be great, not just only for Bermuda, but for the Turks and Caicos and the BVI and all of us who are pursuing full membership at this time.
One last question from the audience. I promise I'll let you go, Deputy Premier.
Okay.
Deborah, boy, she says, CARICOM, what's in it for us? What are the benefits of being members? Economic gains for our community, support for local families and business, improvement to our infrastructure and services. What about job opportunities? Can they apply for the same job as us? What guarantees do we have for local hiring priorities? Now, you kind of touched on all of this, but if you can just use her questions just to reiterate some of the things you've said as we close out.
All right, thank you, Jamal. I'll start from the end. Being a full member of CARICOM does not erase the fact that each country within CARICOM has labor laws or immigration laws that govern employment practices within your country. In every country, regardless of CARICOM membership, the citizen of that country has first preference for any job in your market. That's just a simple standard across the board. Where the access to the movement of people comes in is after that point of ensuring that a Bermudian or Turks and Caicos Islanders or Jamaican or Bahamian or Barbadian had the opportunity to be able to apply and get the first opportunity at that particular job has been done, then it would be open to other citizens, primarily throughout the region on the first instance, and then the wider world thereafter. So that's how that happens. So you don't, by signing up, you don't remove your labor laws from your country. That's something that's consistent, and it's known that in a particular country, the citizen of that country would have first preferences to whatever jobs that become available based on the economic activity in that country. And again, membership, CARICOM is working on a number of things in terms of the full membership, working on being at the forefront of the discussions on climate change. Being a full member allows us to have input on those discussions that we are leading. Being a full member gives us greater access to the national security apparatus throughout the region. We all have our challenges, disaster management as well. We are participating states already as in SEDEMA, but also gets great access to donor funding that might be available for our countries. From an economic standpoint, cost of living, trade, and I'll give a perfect example. When there was a recent spike with prices of eggs throughout the region or in the world, for whatever reason, we were able to, from our association with the Bahamas, connect with one of their suppliers within the DR to be able to drop the price of our eggs rather than getting it from the US directly. So having those relationships and meaningful relationships throughout the region helps you as a country to navigate a bit more. So I think overall, in terms of the benefits of being a full member of CARICOM, as well as the concerns from the labor market perspective, I think that's some stuff that'll be properly negotiated and properly sought after to ensure that all sides can have a win-win situation. So CARICOM and its full members all have an opportunity to benefit from our association and a greater regional integration.
Gotcha. Deputy Premier, thank you so much for the conversation today, sharing the information, making the time for us. Please, if there's any other information that you believe together we can engage people directly that will help them understand things a bit more, please just feel free to share. This is an ongoing conversation in Bermuda. I promise you this is the last question. WKD Lama is just asking, can you explain the common external tariffs, such as what the rate will be?
Okay. Well, that one I'll have to also get back to you on, because I'm not familiar enough with the specifics of the common external tariff. Like I can, based on what it's saying, I probably can give an answer, but I would prefer to give the correct information as opposed to what my interpretation would be on that specific question, because it's sounding like something along the lines of a NAFTA, the North American Trade Agreement between the U.S. and Canada. So, but I want to be 100% sure specifically what that was referencing. So I will leave that to the Bermudan government to explain for you on my behalf. But thanks for the question.
Thank you so much, Jamal Robinson, the Honorable Jamal R. Robinson, Turks and Caicos Deputy Premier. Thank you so much for making time for us. We'll talk soon. Have a wonderful day.
All right. Thanks for having me. Have a great day. Great day.
All right, folks, we're going to take a quick break. After this break, we'll come back and we're going to wrap it up. So don't go anywhere. I've just got a few things to say before we head out and let you go for the day. Stick with us.
The story of Bermuda is a powerful Caribbean story.
From when Bermuda moves from the sidelines, I would hope that Bermuda would see it as a renaissance, in fact. And I say a renaissance because it would be moving back through our history.
It's a lot of linkages. I mean, for instance, our Bermuda folks have been given to events such as Carafasta, when we're talking about Carifta, our sports, cricket, all sorts of linkages that have been ongoing for a while.
Caribbean music and culture has influenced every single genre, every single fashion style. Like, it's fully involved, and we are part of that, actually. It tells a tale of us recognizing that together we are better, we are stronger. So we build a stronger Caribbean, a common voice to take on the realities, the challenges of today's modern world.
When I think about what has shaped Bermuda and the relevance of CARICOM, it's so very easy when I look at the culture, music, cuisine, when I look at the lifestyle. Many Bermudians can trace first generation, second, third generation to their Caribbean roots.
Well, the story of Bermuda as it relates to us in St. Kitts, I would sum it up as a family.
Allow me a few minutes off camera and I'll find them Tegans in Bermuda for you.
The story of us.
The story of us.
The story of us.
The story of us.
All right. Thanks again to the Honorable Jamal R. Robinson, the Deputy Premier of the Turks and Caicos Islands. And thank you to all of you who made time to tune in and engage. This conversation is not going anywhere. I think it's important for us to engage. You know, I talk for a living. One of the things that I try not to do is share uninformed opinions. And if I do, you all hold me accountable. These conversations are necessary for us to form opinions based on facts. Yes, there's going to be the emotional ties for some, but it's important not to dismiss something just because we don't know what's on the other side. I'd encourage people to continue to engage, to ask questions, and understand that though every answer may not be what you want to hear, it may give you at least some insight as to why this either makes sense or to you continues not to make sense. What I do think is clear is that we do need to find a way to reduce the cost of living. We do need to cooperate with our regional partners a bit more. Some people are concerned about the investment, the money to become a full member, 2 million plus. And I think when we talk about spending money, many people like to know, well, what's the return on that 2 million? I think the Honorable Jamal Robinson actually provided some insight as to why it might actually make sense for all British territories to consider full membership in CARICOM. Again, I sit here on this mic today. From the beginning, I honestly don't see why not. But I do understand those who are on the other side. But I would hope that people read beyond, ask questions beyond how they already feel. Predetermined feelings are not facts. We'll be continuing these discussions very soon. Stay tuned to our social media platforms and the Daily Hour live every Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. Bermuda time. If you appreciated this discussion and you are streaming with us on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, or Instagram, please do us a favor. Give us a thumbs up, a love, a like, and make sure you share this conversation with your friends, your family, your colleagues. Until the next time, go to together for caricom.gov.bn and read the green paper. Jot down some important things that you may have further questions about. and ask the right people so that you can get the answers that are informed or at least fact-based. See you later.